Alrighty, says it's live. Hello. Welcome to Behind the Scenes of AV Rant. This is the behind the scenes version, as the title indicates, and therefore, things might, glitch or whatever, because, hey, it's just the live feed of a Google Hangout. I really got to get on changing whatever we're going to need to change since that's going away. But for now, it's a Google Hangout. We're going to be potentially talking about like images and that, which you will not see in this behind the scenes version, but if you're on YouTube, down below there in the show description, click the show more. Right there's a link that says pictures shown in this episode. So if you want to follow along that way and be like, what the heck are they talking about? Talking about an image. Well, it's there in a little Flickr album. So, that's as good as it gets on behind the scenes. If you want things all put together, Tom and I side by side, audio cleaned up, images inserted within the video itself, then look for the completed video version. Usually put that up on Thursdays. So, that's the preamble. You've been warned now. There it is.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. Tom was waiting on me this Tuesday morning, giving myself a haircut. Usually it's the other way around. But not this week. This week we switched roles.
That's right. Yes. Very switchy in the roles.
Yep.
All right. I don't really have anything to talk about before this podcast. I spilled my coffee. That was the big.
That's a shame. We got piles of questions and lots of comments and stuff, so no worries. We can put all right, let's get to it.
This is AV Rant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. The other places you can find us: www.avrant.com, youtube.com/avrant podcast.
No, right? youtube.com /avrant.
It's facebook.com/avrant podcast. I got them out of order. So you can find us on all those places online.
Mm-hmm.
After you want to ask questions, then it's AV Rant or Facebook, not YouTube. We don't read those. We're going to contact Rob directly. It's Rob at AV Rant. His Twitter is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at AVRant.com. My Twitter's at AVRant_Tom. Let's thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, to support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to www.avrant.com. Click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link. Mm-hmm. There, you can leave us a PayPal donation, which, PayPal. I want to thank Matt. Matt did that this week, so thank you very much, Matt.
Yeah, Matt, thank you very much for that PayPal donation. We appreciate it.
We also want to thank our 84 patrons over at patreon.com.
Yeah, that's patreon.com/AVRant podcast. If you'd like to sign up, think of it as a voluntary subscription, as little as $1 a month if you'd like, or infinity dollars a month. Anywhere in between. We'll take it all.
Bill Gates will take the infinity. Just 1 month.
Sure.
Let's see here. If you can't support the podcast financially, just let us know how you supported us or in what way you let people know about us, and we will mention you. So, John let Accessories for Less know that his Marantz SR6012 purchase was because of us. Matt ordered, I don't know if it's the same Matt or not.
It is the same Matt, I believe.
Matt ordered some Ascend Sierra Luna speakers, an SVS cylinder sub, just one, I don't know why, and acoustic treatments from GIC, all on our advice. I must have the SVS people said, wait, you just want one? Do you already have another one? Well, the AV Rant guys usually order 2 at a time. He told each of them he heard about them from us. Phil bought a Marantz SR7012 from Accessories for Less and let them know we sent them their way. Kurt on Facebook told his friend Andy that we talked about SVS subs and recommended them highly. So Andy gave SVS a call to ask some question. He was so impressed with their customer service that he not only bought a PB1000, but also a bunch of Prime Series speakers for the rest of his home theater setup. Mario mentioned to Accessories for Less, got an earful of us today this week. Mario mentioned to Accessories for Less they heard about them from us when he bought his Denon S930H receiver. So thank you, Mario, Kurt, Phil, Matt, John.
You went upwards in the list. I'll go back down. It's John, Matt, Phil, Kurt, and Mario. Thank you all very much for the support. Thank you for mentioning us to those retailers and manufacturers, and congrats on your purchases. All very nice stuff.
In the news, Alamo Draft House Cinemas has been beta testing a season pass subscription service at 2 of their locations. Their CEO says they've been impressed by the response, so they will be offering season pass subscriptions at all of their locations before the end of the year. Prices may vary slightly based on region, but expected to be about $20 a month. And so far, it's been unlimited movies per month, although they might decide on something similar to AMC Theaters Stubs A-List subscription that offers 3 movies per week for $20 per month. Dude, who goes to more than 3 movies a week? I mean, I'd have to have no job, and so I'd still be like, I don't want to go to the movies again.
That Stubbs A-list, I have zero problem with that restriction, because they're even like, if you want to see the same movie 3 times in one day, that's okay. They'll even let you do that on the Stubbs A-list one. They're just like 3 movies a week. It resets every Friday morning. I'm like, that seems entirely reasonable for $20 a month, especially since that one lets you do Dolby Cinema or IMAX, which AMC does have. But yeah, Alamo Draft House getting in on this. They've got a little over 50 theaters throughout the US, so they're not like a gigantic Cineplex company, but still they're getting on board with it. Looks like it's going to be about the same price. So far they've been doing unlimited, but who knows, they might limit that a little bit when the actual thing rolls out. But I'm happy to see this. I mean, I think it makes all the sense in the world.
This is like been the first announcement from anybody in the last, like, feels like decade that I've gone, yeah. $20 a month. That price seems reasonable to me. I mean, yes, for a movie, because you're used to paying upwards of $15 a movie ticket anyway.
Exactly.
Or more sometimes. So, but yeah, let's say $15 a movie ticket. So you're paying a little bit more than one movie. You can see as many as you want basically a month. And there's going to be some months I probably won't go.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
then there might be a month where you go and see 4 or 5 movies and you've totally made your money back.
And from the movie theater standpoint, they are making money on the stupid tickets anyways. So
concessions.
It's a concession. So for them, it just makes total sense. It's like, this is the first time somebody said something out of a movie theater that made sense. Like, we're jacking the price for 3D movies. Everybody's like, I don't want 3D movies. Well, you have to pay more.
This is what MoviePass was trying to do all over the place, but I mean, they're technically still around. They're still trying, those MoviePass guys. So, good on them. But I mean, the theaters doing it themselves makes all the sense. I wish and hope a similar thing will come to Canada. They've got a monopoly on cinemas here. It's all just Cineplex Odeon here.
I mean, the other thing is too, it's like it makes very little sense to have a universal movie pass, because I don't know about you guys, but there's like one theater in the area, maybe 2, that I would go to on the regular. Sure. And if you chose me, if you told me I would pay less if I just went to one, I'd be completely okay with that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a third party, so they're taking their cut. Of course, the theaters weren't super on board with that, so MoviePass always struggled. But them doing it themselves, where they're like, you got to come to our theater. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. That seems reasonable.
Both the good theaters in my area are AMC,
so maybe you get on that Stubbs A-list. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I could mention it to the wife. The honest truth is that we very rarely have the time to take everybody.
Well, yeah, but it's not as though it'd be $20 a month for all of you to go. That is one person, and it's non-transferable. Right. Of course, there's going to be somebody out there who's going to try, like, why can't I let my kid go and see a movie and I see it? Like, no, come on, that makes it's $20 a month for one person. That makes sense. It's tied to you, so seems fair.
Okay, WISA gained some new members, including TCL and Atlantic Technology. Atlantic Technology, of course, makes speakers, and TCL makes TVs that we like. So WISA is the wireless connection thingy that's supposed to be
wireless speaker. I don't know if it's association or whatever it is. It might as well be. It works.
Amalgamation. It's probably amalgamation. LG, Microsoft Xbox, and Klipsch have shown the most prominent support so far for WISA, with actual WISA products coming this year. So, the idea here is that we're going to see having some sort of universal standard for wireless support that works is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like anything else. I mean, we've got Bluetooth.
Yeah,
everybody's mad at that for one reason or another.
But I mean, WISA has been at this for years.
I know.
It's finally seeming to get a foothold in a real way. I mean, this all could fall through, but it seems to be actually moving in the right direction.
My experience with WISA was that it was better than Bluetooth. So, I'm
lower latency, less
this.
Compression.
Yeah.
So hope it works.
So they'll probably fail, and we'll be stuck with Bluetooth.
Which
sometimes does not connect from the headphones in my ears to the phone in my back pocket.
They say that WISA, the standard, is capable of working all the way up to Atmos and DTSX, and that the implementations we've seen thus far have been limited to 7.1. But
That's technically Atmos.
yeah, right, yeah.
I mean,
But
maybe that's what they're talking about.
it could be, but hey, the more the merrier. And if it gains traction and becomes more of a universal standard where it's like, yeah, I buy my TV and I can get speakers and I know it's going to work together and identify what speaker is in what position and stuff without an AV receiver. For the snobs among us, maybe that won't be good enough, but for a lot of people it will. So
I'm 100% before this.
Mm-hmm.
Apple had their services event. Here's what they announced. First of all, remember when Apple used to innovate?
I don't know.
Remember when Apple came out with the iPhone, everybody went, I don't need this thing. I have a phone. And then 2 years later, everybody needed. Everybody's like, how did you live without this thing?
That was the big one. The iPhone is by far the biggest one.
I mean, I still think that the iPod was pretty revolutionary. Of course, the iPad as well.
But I mean, as everyone always points out, it's not as though there weren't portable players that you would download music onto. Those existed. It's just the iPod did it a bit better. And they had the big thing was that they launched it alongside iTunes, where they had a storefront where you could get all the music for $1 a song. That was what made the iPod a big deal. So
all right, so here's their service: Apple News Plus. I guess everything's
you got to have the plus in there. Yeah,
this is the new little lowercase I, and the new X.
It really is.
300 magazines and a few newspapers, $10 a month, only on iPad, iPhone, and Mac for now. Because when you want to read a newspaper, what you really want to read it on is your Mac. Apple Card. I keep seeing articles talking about this, like just the headlines, like this is why the Apple Card is good for everybody. I'm like, just can't imagine why I would have this thing.
It's a credit card.
Apple Card, US only credit card from Apple, backed by Goldman Sachs and MasterCard. Yeah, because when you want quality backing you want the people that caused the financial global crisis.
I love that Onion headline that they put out this week, where they're like, all the people in the financial sector saying it's been a while since we caused a complete global meltdown. I think it's about time we get on that.
God, it's about time. Goldman Sachs, dude. I would have changed my name. 2% cash back, updated daily. I don't know what does that mean.
It means whatever you purchase, you get 2% in cash back that day. You don't have to wait till the end of the month.
Who cares? 3% cash back on Apple purchases. Use it via Apple Pay or a physical card that never expires. Because when you lose it, you want to make sure somebody can use it forever.
That's right.
Apple Arcade, subscription gaming service with 100 plus games at any given time. No price announced yet on that one. 100 plus games.
That sounds very similar to that what is the Xbox Game Pass, which is a terrific deal. Xbox Game Pass, that's awesome. So this is Apple's stab at it.
Apple TV app already existed on the Apple TV hardware and iPhone and iPad, but now it's coming to Macs and will be built into TVs from Samsung, Sony, LG, and Vizio. It'll also come to Roku and Amazon Fire devices. Gee, I wonder who's left out of the cold on this one. So pretty much only Google being left out. And now your iTunes TV and movie purchases and rentals will show up in it, along with any of your compatible subscription services. So it's their one-stop shop, except for Netflix or anything Google. So anything except for their competitors. I guess Disney Plus probably won't make it here either, but whatever.
Well, I mean, interestingly, Amazon is in there. So they seem to have been buddy-buddy now. They're getting along, Apple and Amazon.
Whatever. We'll see how long that lasts before they they disable their app or they hamstring their service. Apple TV channel, sign up for streaming services directly within Apple TV app so that Apple can take a cut. So yeah, I guess those are live TV. Is that live TV?
So what the heck is in there? The TV channels, it's like HBO Go or Now or whatever it is.
Oh, right, whatever that is.
And like Amazon Prime Video and
for all of your lip sync issues.
Showcase and Epics and those things, or Showtime or whatever the thing is. So those a la carte streaming service channels, they're like, now you can sign up for them directly within the Apple TV app. They call it Apple TV channels. Everything shows up there in one sort of aggregated view. But now Apple gets to take their cut because you signed up through them instead of, just the service getting all of the money. So whatever.
And Apple TV Plus is a subscription streaming service with original content. No price announced. They spent $1 billion to get a bunch of celebrities on board to make PG-rated content.
Yep. So like Spielberg, Oprah Winfrey, Jennifer Aniston, Steve Carell. These are our people. They had a whole bunch of names on a list. They announced pretty much nothing as far as pricing or titles or anything goes, but they're like, this is our streaming service. If Disney can do it, so can we. But, Disney kind of had a back catalog of stuff you might actually want to watch. Apple's like, well, we're going to create it all from scratch, and it's all going to be family friendly, and you're all going to buy it.
Let me just make a wild prediction here about this. What they're going to do is they're going to treat each one of these content creators as auteurs and let them do whatever the heck they want. And it's going to be mostly miss, a couple of hits, and mostly self-serving crap. That's kind of the way that I look at this. If you look at the Jungle Book thingy it wasn't really Jungle Book. It was a Jungle Book, the one that Netflix, the guy, Andy Serkis or whatever.
Oh, that version of Jungle Book. Yeah. It was Andy Serkis.
That came straight to Netflix. I mean, everybody looked at it and went, it was his pet project. It was all this, motion capture animal
did a
thing.
Better one, Jon Favreau, just a couple of years prior.
Right. And it was that. I mean, that was it. And it just sort of, everybody looked at it and went, well, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting, like tech demo, but it sucks as a movie, essentially. And I think that's what you're going to see a lot of. And that, I mean, I think this is a very freshman move, but maybe they won't. Maybe they'll, because the thing that Marvel has done, and I think DC did it too, they just they backed the wrong horse there. But the thing that Marvel has done is they've kind of curated the storyline and made sure that, hey, you direct your movie the way you want to direct it, but these are the beats that you have to hit and these are the people you have to use. And if you want to use more people, you use more people. Use less people, there's less people. I don't care. But these are the beats that you have to hit. If you looked at first Avengers movie, to me, the perfect example is the Thor Iron Man fight, where literally at the very end, Chris Evans as Captain America looks up and says, "Are we done now?" And that's literally the end of the fight. It's like Josh Whedon did I do the fight that you said I had to do? I did. Okay, can we get back to all the funny talking now?
Our contractually obligated fight.
That's exactly what that was, and I absolutely believe that's what Marvel's done, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not.
Seems to have worked for them.
It has, but then again, you look at DC, and they're like, we're going to go behind the vision of Zack Snyder, who straight up believes that Batman kills people, and anybody who doesn't agree with that is a child, or a man child.
Fundamentally misses the point of the character, but there you go.
So, but when you just let like artists who are great artists do what they want, you get Ghost Rider 2. Now, if you have not seen Ghost Rider 2, you should not see Ghost Rider 2. But Nicolas Cage is like unfettered Nicolas Cage, and it is a sight to behold.
Yes, it is.
It is
rather entertaining.
It's entertaining in a, like, there should be some sort of game that you can play that ends up with you drunk at the end, but there's no game that you can come up with for this movie that will not end you up in intensive care at the end of it, because everything he does is nuts. So that's what I'm afraid of. Maybe it won't be, but that's what I'm afraid of. I would rather see them like Steven Spielberg. Okay, great. That's a good name. But, Steve Carell, Jennifer Aniston, some of these, these actor types who have also done a little bit of directing, I don't know that they've got necessarily the all-around skills that they need, because that's a really rare.
As long as nobody's too mean, because apparently that's been the most common note from Tim Cook. He's like, do they have to be so mean?
Tim Cook, I'm sorry, dude. I was never a Steve Jobs fan, but boy, you did not exactly. It's like, I feel like if we could see Steve Jobs shoes and your feet in them, they would be like big old clown shoes flopping around. All right, let's get some comments from our listeners here. Brian wrote us a while ago when he was trying to figure out why he was so underwhelmed with the performance of his Onkyo 787 receiver and RBH speakers. We said that the equipment itself was good, so barring some sort of malfunction, it had to be a problem with the setup. Perhaps room acoustics or genuine need for more power, since we didn't notice the room size and seating distance, and the 787 doesn't have pre-outs, so it's powering all 9 of the speakers itself. Based on some of our other advice to other listeners, which is kind of why we do this, he experimented with hanging heavy blankets to reduce early reflections, manually adjusting the equalization, and finally rerunning the auto setup using a different microphone placement than he initially used. And altering the mic placement seemed to do the trick. That's not uncommon. When he first ran the audio setup, he had spread out the positions as much as possible, including the 2 love seats on either side of his L-shaped couch. This time, he kept the mic much closer to the primary seat in the middle, basically just sticking to the 3 seats in the middle. It sounds amazing and powerful now, and it made the seats way out to the side sound a little bit better too. So,
yep.
This is in HDR and Dolby Vision when he's using this QLED. So QLED, right?
No,
It's
OLED.
OLED.
That's OLED.
Okay, yeah. OLED. But of course, it needs to be SDR when he's using his projector. The monoprice devices don't convert HDR to SDR, and if his projector is connected to the mirrored output of his SR6011, even with the 2 monoprice converters attached, his sources refuse to output HDR at all. He's still stuck with 4K SDR, which defeats one of the purposes of his receiver upgrade. So he's hoping he could use the Zone 2 HDMI output. That way, the projector is completely unseen by the sources when Zone 2 is turned off, and they will send 4K HDR to his OLED. Then he turns on Zone 2 when it's projector time, and the sources limit themselves to SDR, and he can still use a 4K SDR signal thanks to his monoprice converters. But when he turns on Zone 2, the audio is all 2-channel only. Is there a way to retain for full surrounds? There should be, isn't there?
Yeah. So let's say, let's forget about the projector for a moment, right? Let's just say you had an SR6011 and you connected the Zone 2 HDMI output to another AV receiver that can do full surround sound, full immersive audio, whatever. That will work. So the Zone 2 HDMI output is capable of outputting a full surround sound signal, a full immersive audio signal.
Right.
That's not the limitation. The issue that is affecting Daniel here is that the W1070 projector has a pair of stereo speakers built into it.
Oh, God.
So the receiver,
it's only seeing the 2 channels that they can do.
That's right. So the receiver is detecting when Zone 2 is on. That Zone 2 is connected to a stereo playback device because it's there. It's got stereo speakers built in. So it's saying, oh, okay, there's a stereo playback device on the end of this. I have to limit everything to 2 channels to play to that. And then now that would get sound coming out of the BenQ projector itself, but of course he doesn't want that, so he has silenced that audio. But then when he goes to turn on his main zone, which is connected to his full surround sound system, and sets both the main zone and Zone 2 to the same source, so that the video can be sending out to Zone 2, everything is limited to 2-channel because, again, it's that lowest common denominator issue where it's like, well, one of these things is stereo only, so that's all I can send everywhere. I can't send surround sound to one zone and stereo from the exact same source to Zone 2 at the same time. Yeah, this is an issue. So, I mean, you can silence the BenQ's speakers, but the AV receiver is still going to detect that they're there. I did a little digging around on AVS forum because some other people were doing kind of similar things, and some people resorted to physically opening up the BenQ projector and physically disconnecting the speakers entirely, which seemed to work for some people. But
I don't know about that.
I know, because that's like a chipset thing where you think even if the speaker is like not wired, mostly they were doing that just to completely silence it as opposed to just having to turn the volume all the way down and pressing the mute button.
And if that right there doesn't tell you why you should not go to the AVS forum for advice, I don't know what does. I mean, when the advice is open up your projector and start cutting wires, come to us, please.
So, yeah.
Is there a way to set the mono price so that it doesn't accept audio at all?
The mono price?
Yeah, either one of those.
Nope, because those are just converters for the video side of things. I mean, there's a couple of really janky solutions I came up with. I mean, number one, you could separate the audio signal from the video signal for all of your sources, which would be a huge hassle.
Yeah.
It would involve getting essentially an HDMI matrix switch.
Right.
And separating audio and video for all of your sources. So that kind of defeats the purpose of like having an AV receiver with a ton of HDMI inputs because you're not even using it as the switch anymore. So the crazy solution, God, this is so dumb, but the crazy solution that could potentially work is you get a second AV receiver.
This is already stupid.
Well, I know, but you get a second AV receiver, you plug the Zone 2 HDMI output from your first receiver into the second receiver, which you then set up to have surround sound of its own. So it's now stripping off the surround sound. As far as the source is concerned, both AV receivers that it's connected to can handle surround sound. So it's sending surround sound even out of the zone 2 output of your first AV receiver. But the second AV receiver is now stripping off the surround sound and sending only video to the BenQ projector. So the second AV receiver is there strictly to strip the sound off. It's not even playing the sound because you haven't connected your speakers to the second AV receiver. It's just stripping off the sound and passing the video on to your BenQ. I mean, that's insanity, but it doesn't have to be an expensive AV receiver.
The cheapest one I found with Atmos is $219.99 at Accessories for Less. It's a Denon AVR S738.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to have good auto correction or anything like that. It just has to be compatible with the same audio formats as your SR6011, so that as far as the HDMI is concerned, it's seeing two AV receivers that can both handle all. So
you're literally just using this as a switch. You're not using it as a.
You're not even using it as a switch. You're using it as an audio stripper.
Yeah, it's powering. It's not powering any speakers whatsoever.
It's not powering any speakers. It's not doing anything other than separating the audio from the video after it's gone through the HDMI 2 output of your SR6011.
I got a better idea, dude. Get another projector.
That is the other solution, is to get a new projector that can do 4K and HDR signals, just like your LG OLED can, and then you can go back to the mirrored output if you want. Not deal with any of the Zone 2 stuff.
No, okay. So really, I think the two solutions that you really have that are, I think, viable and not completely lame and weird is first, accept that when you're watching, I know you're going to hate this, accept that when you're watching the projector, you're going to use your surround up mixer, and that you're going to hope that it does a good job.
That is a terrible, but okay.
and that you're going to use that as motivation to save up for a new projector.
Right. Yep.
I don't think buying another receiver maybe $250. So I guess probably with shipping.
That's cheaper than a 4K HDR projector.
Oh, for sure. But
I said it was crazy before I said it. I just said it might work. That's all.
Your other, I guess, option is to look online at like Craigslist or eBay or Audio Gone, some of those other things, and look for a used one. Like, the I've got 3 channels blown in this.
Right. But if you are doing Atmos in your main zone, then the second AV receiver still needs to be Atmos compatible. Right. If you don't want to limit, if you're fine with limiting yourself to 5.1 or 7.1 when you're doing zone 2 with your projector, then there's that to consider as well. Yeah, I know.
That's why I said the cheapest one that was Atmos compatible. It's on sale right now, Accessories for Less, for $220. So, Infinite Gary says, when did TVs first start including Toslink audio outputs? He's never really noticed, but since he's always used external sources and sound systems, but he's pleasantly surprised when he found the Toslink output even on some of his oldest TVs. Was there always one there, just on every TV? Not always. At some point there weren't
HDTV. As soon as HDTV was a thing, because HDTV signals, the over-the-air signal, always contained Dolby Digital 5.1. So from then on, you always had an optical output on every HDTV. That was about it, as far as I can tell, right? Like right when HD TVs came out.
I think so, yeah. Front wides. Gary's Atmos setup uses some Rant's SR6011. It can't do front wides, apparently, but this is Gary, so expanding his setup from 7.1.4 at present to 9.1.4 is definitely under consideration. He really only has one subwoofer in whatever this setup is.
In this setup, he has one subwoofer.
Is this that bedroom one?
Yeah, it is the bedroom one.
The place least likely to ever need wides, but okay. What's the experience when going from 7 speakers to 9? Subtle or easily noticeable? Are certain sounds played out of the wide speakers that don't play out of any other speakers? Is there a particularly good movie that shows off what front wides will bring to the experience? Remember, they're basically becoming your first reflection points, and there is no content that is specifically designed for front wide. So to ask if there is specific sounds that comes.
It was the DTS Neo X titles that used it more than anything, because those were the ones.
But they're still going to be derived. They're going to be derived from this.
It's discrete. It's discrete in those Neo X titles. And I was going to say Dread. Dread was the best example I've ever heard.
Okay.
of the front wides actually doing something. The Carl Urban Dread.
Yeah. The one that's good.
Yeah,
Not the other one.
it's a good movie nonetheless. Yeah, regardless. So, and that has a Neo X soundtrack, which you don't have a Neo X decoder anymore, but it'll still work. You'll still get the front wides using the Neural X up mixer. Although you can't do 9.1.4, even if you get yourself like a X 8500H.
Too, right?
Because Neural X and DTS X are limited to 11 speakers. So you could do 9.1.2 or you could do 5.1.4 plus front wides. You could turn off the surround back speakers to get front wides going in there with 4 overheads. So given that is a DTS Neo X soundtrack on that, 9.1.2 would actually be the way it was encoded on the disc originally. So it would be fine to listen to it that way. But yeah, it was a good example because they had, they had several, lots of bullets going around and several panning and sort of circling type of things like that. And they did make use of those front wides. So that was there. Now, all of the sounds in any soundtrack will always be audible, even if you go down to mono. It'll just continually down mix all of the sounds into however many speakers you're using. So it's not as though when you add front wide speakers, suddenly you'll be hearing sounds you literally never heard before because there were no speakers present to play them or something. No, the sound in any soundtrack is always down mixed into however many speakers you're using, even all the way down to 1. But the placement of the sound can be that little bit more precise. I mean, if you just do the setup portion of the disc to let you know that all the speakers are in fact discreetly playing sounds, I mean that's the most obvious way to hear something come out of the front wide and only the front wide.
But is this going to be a major difference in his listening experience?
Well, no, I mean I can't say that. It's not as big as the difference as going from 2.1 to 5.1. That is a much bigger difference than this.
Sure.
I think it is, well, okay, so if you're listening to Dolby Surround Up Mixer, it's no difference at all because it doesn't use front wides at all. If you're listening to an actual Atmos title, there might literally never be a sound coming out of your front wide speaker because it'll only be there if an object happens to pan through that location. And very often on a lot of Atmos discs, they're only mixing the floor level in channels still and not using any objects in the floor level. So if they're not using objects, you'll never get anything out of a front wide speaker. So mostly it's that Neural X up mixer that'll make use of them because then any sound that's somewhere between a front main speaker and a surround speaker will get moved into that front wide speaker. And I like to use the game mode because it does that the most discreetly. And you can hear things coming out of those front wide speakers. I would have to call it subtle. You can't really call it anything other than subtle. It is not.
Yeah, it'd be hard to call it anything.
But I do think
most of the time it won't be doing anything. That's not subtle. That's non-existent.
But I do think it is noticeable if you're the type of person who notices those things. Gary, we know, is the type of person who's like, he wanted surround backs because he notices and appreciates that difference. A lot of people will not notice it or not care about it if they do notice it, but he does.
Notice this, you're going to have to get rid of your surround backs or get rid of one of your overhead speakers.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so he would need a different AV receiver because the SR6011 just can't do front wides full stop. But if you got a different receiver, I mean, given that most of what I hear out of front wide speakers is because I'm using Neural X to upmix, and I don't use surround back speakers in my current setup, I have front wides instead. That's sort of the way I would lean because Neural X only uses 11 speakers anyway, and I still want to keep 4 overheads. So, yeah.
So he's got about 6 feet in terms of front to back distance from his front main speakers to his side surround speakers. Okay. That's a direct line, I guess? Or is the speakers on the side walls?
No, yeah. So imagine you got your front speakers in front of you, you got your side speakers, and then just the strict front to back distance is about 6 feet. So the diagonal or the curve would be longer than that. Yeah.
Would he just put the front wide speakers exactly halfway between? Remember, Gary, this is where your first reflection point is supposed to be for your front speakers. So where's your first reflection point? Put them there, aim them sort of towards you.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you're going by an angle, it'll always be at a 60-degree azimuth angle, right? Plus or minus 60 degrees to the left and the right. That is just mathematically where the sound is going to be as your first reflection point. So you can work
depending on how wide his room is, but his room is traditional.
No, but even if the room is super wide, it's still going to be a 60-degree angle. it's just where it's going to be, to bounced off like a billiard ball. So that's where it's going to be. Okay. So yeah, you can do it by angle, or you can do it by figuring out where your first reflection point is, using the mirror trick, right? You can do that, but it's not going to be just the strict distance. It's not going to be 3 feet in front of you because your front left right speakers are 6 feet in front of you. It's not going to be that type of calculation. Angle or mirror.
Jim has a Denon X3300W. He's got his sources plugged in via HDMI. He uses HDMI standby pass-through feature since he doesn't use full surround all the time. Excuse me. He's noticed that after a day or two, he'll get a black screen from whatever he's watching. It lasts about a second. Then he'll start getting a random black screen more than once. And it'll keep getting worse and worse until he's getting a random black screen every 10 minutes or so. If he completely unplugs his Denon and plugs it back in, things seem fine for a day or two. Then the random black screen will pop up for a second and gradually get worse and worse again. He did some Googling and found a few people describing a similar problem. People have changed HDMI cables, upgraded firmware, done all the usual suspect type of things, but it just seems to keep happening. Any idea what's going on and how maybe to fix it? So in order to have your standby pass-through, you have to have CEC, HDMI CEC engaged. And I mean,
is that
it's
true? For just standby pass-through?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends.
It depends on the exact AV receiver model, because Denon and Marantz, they usually let you separate the various CEC and ARC type features, including pass-through, is its own separate line item there. And
if you do not have to have if you do not have to have HDMI CEC on, then turning that off will certainly be the first thing I would suggest doing.
Yep.
If you have to have it on, then I'm going to blame it because I think it's like, when you got 3 kids and one of them's usually the one that gives you the problems, you go to that one first before you start looking at the other 2. And that's unfair, but in the case of CEC, it's often the case. So if you can turn it off, turn it off. And if this fixes the problem, then you're welcome. If you can't turn it off, then I don't know, voodoo. No, sacrifice a goat. I got nothing.
I mean, clearly. So I mean, it's not as though it never works, right? He does a unplug it and plug it back in thing, and that gets it working again. But then, so I mean, and you're getting these random black screens. They only last about a second, and they get more and more frequent as time goes on. I mean,
that sounds like an HDMI handshake. That's what it sounds like to me. And then, by losing that handshake, you're having to reconnect, and you get that black screen just for a second is not so bad. I mean, you think you have a JVC projector, you're waiting for like 30, but. That's what it sounds like to me. And having it ramp up, more and more means that handshake is getting lost more and more often. Why is that happening? Well, it shouldn't happen, but it is. So,
I mean, the only other thing I can think of, if it isn't just that built in, that, this is a loose connector situation again. That it's that like when you're unplugging it, maybe you're kind of, unplugging the HDMI cable and reseating that at the same time. People don't always list all the variables.
Right. I don't know. I mean, if it was a heat thing, where over time it was heating up, I would think that like as you were watching more and more TV, it would happen more and more often, not over.
It would happen in the one session, not
as it got hotter, it would happen because that if you've heard of people who are like all of a sudden I get weird static at one speaker and my receiver shuts down. Well, that's a wire that's heating up and then arcing, right? Well, that happens during a movie. It doesn't happen in the first 5 minutes of watching TV.
And start happening more and more frequently until you reset the thing and then it's okay again. And
then it cools down and it's okay again. I would be surprised if it was an HDMI cable seating issue. I mean, it just doesn't. What he's describing doesn't sound like it to me. So
that's our best stab at that, Jim. I mean, if having to unplug your receiver and plug it back in every few days is the only workaround, then first world problem. That is a workaround. But
you want to make sure that you check your CEC settings not only in your receiver but in every other device that's in there. Like if you've got an Apple 4K or something,
every last one of them.
Anything that's got HDMI CEC, make sure in the TV itself, the display, turn all of those off. Make sure it's all off. And if you're like, well, it doesn't say HDMI CEC in this thing. Well, search for HDMI CEC and the name of your device.
Yeah, it's going to have some other name.
It's Adventure Sync. What? Adventure Sync?
Do like Onkyo's RIHD, because that certainly tells you what it is.
Yeah. Adam just bought a new home. Congratulations, Adam. The basement is unfinished, and he will eventually make a theater down there. But for the next few years, the main place for watching TV and movies will be the great room on the main floor. It's completely open to everything, including upstairs. Hardwood floors, bare white walls are as the starting point, and his 65-inch Samsung TV is going to be mounted above the fireplace. Okay. Seating will be a sectional sofa with the main seat directly in front of the TV, about 12 feet. I'm sorry, not 12 eyes. 12 feet from eyes to screen. And as far as sound quality goes, he only really cares about that main seating position. He's given us some diagrams here. I can't really see any of this stuff, but whatever. Oh, right. It is very hardwood floor and very white.
That is brick. Some bare and empty as the pictures go. Of course, there's going to be furnishings in
there.
There's
going to be furniture in here at some point.
Not going to change the hard floor and the flat white walls very much, though.
Oh, right. And it's open to the kitchen. It's about a bajillion.
Oh, I mean, and it's open to the stairs going upstairs and open to all of the upstairs as well. So this is
like 30-foot ceilings in here. So it's gonna be I like it. I like the kitchen.
Oh, it's gorgeous looking in there. But as far as an acoustic environment for a dedicated home theater, less than ideal, we shall say. But hey, this is really what he got, so we're going to deal with it.
All right. So he'd really like to get at least 5.1 surround sound, but do we think it's even worth attempting that much in this room? So he's going to be looking about the fireplace. You can do this. You can.
Oh, you can do 5.1 in here.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So let's just talk about in general. There's two real ways you can think about this situation. We get this question a lot. I've got a basement or I've got a room I'm going to make into a theater, but for now I'm living in this other thing. Mm-hmm. What do I buy? Well, you need to make a decision, and that is, am I buying for the room I'm in, or am I buying for the room I'm going to be in?
Sure.
And I think in this instance, you should be buying for the room that you're in. You should assume that every piece of gear that you buy is going to be for this room and will never leave. When you go to your home theater, you're starting fresh.
Yes.
This room has got its own specific challenges that you're going to have to deal with. And I feel like getting a good system for this is not necessarily going to translate into a good system for something else. Plus, you've already got the 65-inch TV, which may or may not work in your basement room, depending on how big it is. Now, as I look at this, I'm looking at the image of the kitchen to the left and the fireplace to the right. Above you is upstairs, so that means there's a wall up there. To me, I see a couch, your sectional couch facing that the
fireplace.
Yep. And then the surround speakers being above you and on that ceiling, like on the side of the wall that's the ceiling, for the kitchen
ceiling
area.
Of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay, so they'd be like they basically be like high up on what would kind of be a back wall.
Yes.
You thinking that?
That's what I see.
I was thinking maybe because he's got like this stairway, this quite tall stairway that's to the right of what he'll be facing. Now that's quite far away over there. But I'm like, you could put a surround speaker over there as one side, and then you've got a wall with windows in that, but there are, sections in between the windows. It's not as though it's just one continuous window. So I'm thinking somewhere over there on the left wall where the windows are, to the left of the fireplace, and then somewhere on the what is the stairway. You could put side surround speakers that way. They'd be quite far apart because this is a wide and open style room, but they'd be to your sides and they wouldn't have to be way up high.
I think it'd go either way.
Yeah.
I would not
either solution.
So you might think to yourself, why don't I put the side surrounds on the side like Rob said, and then put like surround backs above me and way up there? I wouldn't bother.
I wouldn't bother. You could.
You could
go 7.1, but I wouldn't super duper bother with that. But yeah, no, I mean, either of those placements, it makes sense. And yeah, we both think you can totally do 5.1 in some way in this room.
Right. So speakers need to be in-wall or slim on-wall to keep the look very clean. He's tried the Phantom Center thing before, and he'd really prefer to have a dedicated center speaker. But it needs to be slim enough to go on the fireplace mantle just below the TV. He was thinking maybe in-walls to either side of the fireplace and some sort of slim center. What would we recommend? So first of all, we have no idea what your room acoustics are going to be like. I mean, right now they're awful.
Oh, right now it's echoing. I'm sure if you went in there and just walked around or said anything, it would literally echo.
Right. So in walls and slim center is going to be your issue here more than anything, because there's lots of people that make on walls and in wall speakers that are fine. I mean, RBH makes in-wall speakers that would be just fine in here. But
Mhm.
I think like Kef might be
Yeah.
a good solution here, and that's because of the concentric design where this tweeter is inside the woofer. It makes it a little bit more kind of like a directional thing.
Mhm.
It will help you with some of the acoustics. It will not fix the acoustics in this room. You will have to do some
No.
work here, but it will be something that you could do.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to reiterate my idea from last week of Kef's HTF 8003, which, kind of looks like a large soundbar, but it's 3 passive speakers that happen to share one slim cabinet. That could fit quite nicely just above the mantle there. And, now you're not dealing with installing in-walls, because putting in-walls in that section of wall that's just to the left and right of the fireplace, we don't know what's back there necessarily. It might not be the easiest thing to put in-walls in that construction. Sometimes that's masonry back there or something like that.
My concern with that is that you end up with a fairly narrow. I mean, even if the
But he
sound
said
bar
he
is
only
very
cares
wide.
about one seat primarily.
Well, no, he said he never really cares about what did he say? He said he cares about like that section hole, and that's it. And that's more the
Nah.
seating as far as he only cares about that main seating position, which is
There you
the
go.
seating will be a sectional sofa that the main seat directly in front of the TV. Okay,
So
well,
just
I
one
mean,
main
if
seating
you
position.
really if you really care about one seat, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you care about the sofa, it might not be wide enough.
Right.
And that's where
But
I
this
would
is
be
this is
concerned.
not a small sound bar by any means. This would be a very large sound bar, but
Well, it's got a 65-inch TV. It
be below a
should be fine.
65-inch TV and on that mantle, it won't look out of place at all. I recommended that very unit to Richard Gunther over at the Digital Media Zone, and he's been very, very happy with that one. It also has the type of output capability from that form factor where 12 feet away, it'll be okay, which is not always the case with slim style speakers like that.
Right.
And it plays low enough to cross over nicely to a subwoofer. So it for me, it checks all the boxes. It costs about $900, but I think you'd be paying darn close to that anyway if you went in.
Oh yeah, $300 a
$300 a piece plus the installation, So, that's my solution there. Plus, you wanted something very slim or in wall to go as your surrounds as well. And Kef does have their T series speakers. That are very, very slim and available in white. I'm showing the black one here because that's the image that they have on the website, but they are available in white. You definitely want to go with the bigger size. It'd be the 300 series size in the T series. But
You've already answered his next question.
Right? Yeah. There you go. I'm in favor of that.
And regardless if you put those on the side walls or above, on the back wall, like I was suggesting, one of the things he's worried about is angling them down. And I don't really think that's something that you have to worry too much about. Remember, surrounds are not supposed to be directional. It's supposed to be more of a diffuse sound back there. I mean,
in the traditional 5.1 setup, they were meant to be more of an enveloping and diffuse sound. Yeah, things have changed a little bit with Atmos, but we're not dealing with an Atmos configuration here. Let's not go quite that insane.
I would be less worried about having them angled, no matter what side and where you put them. I would be less worried about angling them towards you. I'd just be worried about them making sound from the correct location.
Yeah.
And I think behind you above you on that back wall would be okay. I think to the side walls would be okay too.
And if you do want to do it as in wall to make, and paint over them to make them almost completely invisible, Kef has a wide variety of in wall speakers as well. So we're saying Kef all around here.
So subwoofer, he likes the cylinder form factor. Yay. And since he really only cares about the one seat, he's planning on just one sub. Would a PC2000 suffice? He knows full pressurization is never going to... Why does everybody have to say that? We know that too. He knows full pressurization is never going to be an option. He isn't looking for full reference volume in here. You haven't put furniture anywhere yet, so we don't know what's going to be where. So yes, cylinder makes sense from our perspective because it has a low footprint, and which means, and you can even like lie it down behind your couch.
You can lie it down on its side as well.
Yeah, if you really wanted to.
And when it is standing up, they do have those flat tops now where you can put something on. I mean, it'll rock. It might fall off, but they're quite easy to hide.
And glass on there.
Nothing too fragile.
So will it be good enough? Well, I don't know where you're going to put it. So the closer it is to you physically, the more direct sound you're going to get from it. So that shaking the couch thing, you're not going to get a ton of that anyways, unless it's like sitting right next to you. But it's a fine choice. I mean, in this room, it's never going to pressurize anyways, but it'll at least put out a bunch of sound.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll never break itself, which is the lovely thing about SVS's subs. I mean, if we're just looking at the size of this room, of course I'd be saying, well, PC 4000 makes more sense while still being a cylinder. It is a much taller cylinder than the 2000, so do keep that in mind. And, of course, a lot more expensive. So, I'm sure those are factors. Yeah, I mean, will a PC 2000 suffice? Yeah, it'll suffice. It'll suffice.
It'll
never break itself. There might be instances where some of the ultra low stuff, you'll be like, gosh, I wish that was a bit more loud and powerful. And like, yeah, that'll be the case in a room this size. Even a PC 4000 won't pressurize it. But yeah, it would suffice, I would say.
So what about one of those subs that we were talking about the other day where you slide them underneath the couch instead?
Well, those are much, much, much smaller.
Yeah,
and can bottom out.
That's true, but we're only having them underneath the couch. I'm just going for other options here. I'm like, if he wants so what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up getting your home theater at some point, and you're getting your home theater. You're going to get your dual subs because we're going to tell you to, and then you're going to have like this. You're going to fully pressurize the space, and then you're going to come back up to here and like, why did I buy this, $800, $1,000 subwoofer, and it's not doing anything. Really, compared to what's happening downstairs.
It'll be doing something.
Comparatively speaking, it's going to feel like it's not doing a whole lot. So I'm trying to think, how little can you do to get away with having?
Well, I mean, rather than a 10-inch super slim sub that goes under your couch, I would start going tactile transducers instead.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. Like, get the PC 2000 and then get a butt kicker or something for your couch if you're looking for a little bit more of that tactile, but you're going to need something to get you down to, from 80 hertz down to like 35 or whatever at least, so that you can hear those sounds just so they're around. Feeling the stuff that's way lower than that is not going to be very feasible unless you have something.
Then I'd start with the PC 2000, see how that goes, and feel like I would like a bit more tactility, then you add a butt kicker. That makes sense to me.
John upgraded from a Denon S920W receiver to a Marantz SR6012. Man, Marantz is like in the news today. The main reason is because he wants to upgrade from a 5.1.2 to a 5.1.4. Forgot about the 0.2. You need the 0.2. He already mounted a pair of Athena Micra speakers on the ceiling, has another pair that he'd like to mount so that they'll have 4 speakers overhead. The ceiling is vaulted and with the room arranged such that the front and back walls are the low ends of the ceiling and the peak is in the middle. His main seat is about 1.5 feet from the back wall, and he mounted the first pair of overhead speakers 43 inches off the back wall, so they're just over 2 feet in front of him. He called them top middles when they were his only pair of overheads. They're how far in front of them? 2 feet.
2 feet. So yeah, those could be top middles. I mean, you're sort of right on the borderline, but it's a little bit too close to you to technically be top fronts. So calling them top middles is totally fine where they are.
Look-wise and ease of mounting wise, he'd like to keep those speakers where they are and add a second pair 43 inches off the front wall, but that would mean all 4 of his overhead speakers are actually in front of his seats. Would that be a big problem? What would he label them if he kept that placement? Can you move your couch like 2 feet forward?
Yeah, right. Move your couch just a little bit forward, and then they really are top middles. They're just you.
To me, they're a little bit too far forward to be. I mean, I know they are technically within the range or whatever, and they're definitely not top fronts or whatever. They're definitely not that, but they're also kind of not top middles. So can we scoot the couch just a little bit forward so that they are? I mean, I don't understand why he didn't mount them just over his couch.
Well, because it was dealing with where ceiling joists are and where wires.
I'm looking at this projector and I don't see any. Well, maybe ceiling joists, but these speakers are tiny. They are drywall anchorable.
I used to love those Athena micro speakers. I'm so sad they disappeared, but that was many years ago.
There's no reason why you couldn't have just used a drywall anchor to hang them. I mean, these things would hang on they're not heavy. So I hate to say it.
Scooch them back a bit.
I'd scooch them back. I'd either move the couch forward or scooch them back. Those would be my options. And then you could put them, the other ones, wherever the heck you want to put them. Yeah. And they'd be top fronts.
Front
heights because you can't call them top fronts. Right?
Yeah. So, you'd still have top middles regardless. We're not going to change that. We're going to keep the rearmost, wherever they end up being, and continue to call them top middles. Then you're going to have some somewhere farther towards the closer to the front of your room, and they will be called front heights. If you can get them at a 45-degree angle elevation-wise, so much the better. That's exactly where front heights should go. So yeah, you might end up with if you can, you scooch your current top middles back a little bit so that they're more directly over your seat, or move your seat forward, and then try to have the front heights at about a 45-degree elevation angle, and that'll be very nice.
It says you can move the existing pair farther back if it absolutely necessary, but because of the vaulted ceiling, they'd be lower than the front pair. Would the difference in height be any problem? No.
Not a whit.
It's literally just the difference between, turning the volume down on those a little bit and the volume up on the other ones a little bit.
And in fact, the auto setup will do a fantastic job of saying, okay, these are slightly closer, and setting the distance appropriately. And because they're a little bit closer, maybe they're 1 decibel louder, and it'll do that trim level for you automatically too. So that is no problem at all.
No problem. Chris wants to add a pair of rear Atmos speakers, but he'd rather not drill any big holes in the ceiling, so bother with hanging any more speakers on the ceilings, walls or ceilings. He already has a pair